Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Thriving Grace. We're really excited to be back.
Yes, we are.
Again.
Very excited.
We're excited to dive into this topic, but first off, let's have Abby's question.
Yes,
Give it to me.
So, my question is a two-parter. First question is very quick. I don't want an explanation. I just want one answer or another.
Okay.
And then the second is like a proper question. So first question is, do you think a Jaffa cake is a cake or a biscuit? And the second question is, what is your favourite cake?
I'm so passionate about it that I can't not explain it when I have to.
Okay.
I think it's a biscuit.
Okay.
But I won't explain because, I'll get too passionate, to be fair.
Okay.
My favourite cake... I like an angel slice.
Ooh.
I really like an angel slice, although I bought a packet because they were on Tesco's club card price and they were like 30% less sugar or calories or something, and I was like, sure, let's grab them if they taste the same. Opened up the packet, they're taking all the icing off. It's not the same.
So disappointing.
That's not what we
want. 30% less enjoyment.
Yeah,
they should have
exactly.
included that on the box.
They should have.
Yeah.
What about you?
I have to disagree with you. I think Jaffa cake is a cake, but we can leave this for another time. Otherwise,
I feel like we should have this out.
Episode. Okay.
I think right.
So
why do you think it's cake?
I say it's cake because when cake goes off, it goes stale, but when biscuits goes off, it goes soft. And a Jaffa cake, if you leave it out, will go hard. I know
I've heard this argument
with the whole biscuit thing because it is counted as a biscuit, but I think the basis of it is a cake. It's just a cake style biscuit.
I understand this argument. However, I think if you see it as a cake, you're doing yourself wrong, because if you're having a cake, you can only have one. But if you see it as a biscuit, you can have at least two in one sitting. At least.
That is true. That is true. I do like.
I see myself as an optimist.
Yeah, I do like that.
Come to the dark side.
Yeah, I do like that actually. That was a good answer. And my favourite cake, either like a lemon or a chocolate. I'm quite basic, but a good chocolate cake I can't beat. Like I have this thing recently where I have to like try and not make myself think of chocolate cake, because if I think of it or if I see it, I have to have it, and it's like that, like serious. I need this in my life. So yeah,
fair enough.
So I feel like maybe we need to create some cake boundaries, but we can go into that in a different episode. But this week we're talking about boundaries with work, and it's obviously some people work for them means 9-to-5 job or another job or whatever, but some people work means like uni work, school work, etc. So we're going to kind of talk about it in all-inclusive way, because it kind of the things that we'll talk about in terms of boundaries kind of go towards. But so to start off, why do you think that like having boundaries with work, however work may look, and like rest time away from work is important?
I think it's really important to have those boundaries, because I've seen it heard like once that we should be resting in preparation rather than as a response, because if we're always resting like as a response, we're going to get burnt out. Like, I know I'm terrible at this, and I feel like this is quite a generational problem, that we like just work and socialize and whatever until we burn out, and we're like, oh no, now I need to rest, and that's like rest as a response. Whereas if we have those boundaries set in place already, we're like going to be able to like have better stamina in work because we are rested in preparation. So I think that's why, and also because the Bible commands it, like God talks about rest. He does it himself, even though he clearly probably doesn't like I guess need it. So I think it's, we'll get into that, but that's another reason. What about you?
I agree. I definitely think rest is so important. I think we've gotten ourselves into a bit of like a culture of kind of overworking and trying to almost making like overworking a positive, and it's seen as like this thing of like really amazing if you can just like put your whole self into like a career or into your work, and to a degree that is, but I'd say like that is amazing when you do it in a time frame and you leave yourself that time to like rest and your time away from it, because I think it's like then you're thriving on the productivity rather than like thriving actually on the outcome, because you're like almost getting your like, I don't know, like a bit of a high from the fact that you're really overly stressed, and then it's like suddenly you would like crash on that. It's like when you eat too much like sweet stuff, it's like you have this massive high and suddenly you just like crash, and then you're like zonked out for days. And it's like we then try and thrive on that like busyness and stressfulness, and actually like taking the time out is like really good for our mental health and like mental well-being. So I definitely think it is very, very important. But obviously sometimes it can be hard to create boundaries, especially with like, I don't know, deadlines and stuff, where you like feel so stressed about them because they're like always over your head. But how do you think like practically we can do things to be like almost stop ourselves from working and give us that time to breathing that time away from it?
Yeah, I think now more than ever it's harder because we're all in our homes, you know, we're all working from home. If you're like at uni, you know, I literally spend 98% of my time in my bedroom. And I think for me, getting some sort of separation has been a massive thing. Like, you know, I'm at my desk, I'm working, I'm at my bed, I'm resting, or if I'm downstairs, I'm resting. And just kind of having that separation of like, I don't know, like I think in uni, especially when I was in halls, I would like work on my bed, I would rest on my bed and everything there. So I think definitely some sort of separation. I think scheduling in days, you know, later we're going to talk about Sabbath thing, but you know, I don't just have one Sabbath. Like if I sometimes I'll like, you know, take the Friday off or just a random day off. Like I always take Sunday off, but sometimes you just need that to break up your week. And you know, like I know that if you're like working 9 to 5, that's not really an option, but just making sure that there's a time, like a cut off, you know, like I don't work past 6 because I just don't think it's productive after then. So I think it's like you said, it's like practically putting in those boundaries to stop you working past the point where it's no longer productive, because then that just really runs you down. So that's what I think.
100%. I love that. I think as well there's just such an importance of the idea of time, I think, of like actually setting yourself time boundaries, not only like at the end of the day. I know for me, I'm such a person that I need like a shut off time, also because I find it really helpful in the day whilst I'm working, knowing like, right, I'm just going to work until 5, and then it means that I'm always more productive because I'm like, right, I only have an hour, let's just like bash this out rather than like letting myself get distracted. And I think as well then it really helps me with like putting my phone away. So I think actually boundaries really help you with productivity as well. But I think also like time in terms of like giving yourself those break times and actually like setting yourself those break times. I know for me, one thing that I've found whilst starting uni, because obviously I haven't done like study work since sixth form, is that when I'm working, obviously doing it from home, I'll be like, don't know, writing an essay or something, and in my head I'll not have like a time when I'm going to have lunch, and it's like I'm so busy and like so wanting to get something done, it's then like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and I haven't even had lunch yet, and I'm like starving, but I haven't, it's just because I haven't let myself have that time. And I think I found it really helpful actually being like, I'm going to stop at this time, have my lunch, have a break, and then go back to it as well. So I find that really helpful.
I think like with being a uni student, the thing that we're all struggling with the most is that like the guilt when you're not working, because we don't have anything else to do. We literally don't have anything else to do. We can't really socialize. So if we're not working, we feel like we should be. So I think like, you know, if you look at a assignment or something and you're like, oh, I've got the next 5 days to do it, like I can do it all throughout that time, it's just going to be an unproductive 5 days stretched out. Because you're like, oh, I've got so much time, or if you're not doing it you feel guilty but you're watching telly anyway. But actually if you're like, oh, you know what, I'm going to dedicate this amount of time to it, those rest periods will feel like guilt-free, because I think when it's guilty rest, it's just not rest. You know what I mean?
Because then you like aren't like valuing that time as well, and then like afterwards I always find, I don't know about you, but like if I've had a bit of rest but I've not like used it to its full advantage, I just feel just as like knackered or just as unrested as I did beforehand.
Definitely.
So how do you think, obviously we can't just like rest 24/7, and sometimes our rest time is limited. Like sometimes
Mm.
we will have to be busy, say for 5 days, and it's like our rest feels like far away. But how can we still stay focused on God in those like busier
Mm.
times and in those times of work? Maybe maybe where our like boundaries are hard to keep, but yeah, how do we stay focused
Yeah,
on God?
it's all about what you prioritize. I think we've
Mm,
mentioned this before, but like all throughout our GCSEs and A levels, me and Abby still attended our youth group,
mm,
our church youth group, because that's what we prioritized. And like I was very aware that, you know, Tuesday nights when we had youth club, like that was my rest from
yeah,
work. Um and fitted some TV time or whatever, but like I prioritize that time. And like I don't know, like sometimes you can think like spending time with God isn't restful.
mm,
That's such a lie, because
yeah,
like it seems like an effort, but once you're in it, you never, I've
yeah,
like, I can't remember who said that to me, but like you will never regret spending time with God
yeah,
after you've done it.
yeah,
It's just, you know, the enemy will do everything they can to stop you from doing that. But once
yeah,
you come out of it, you will feel so rested. So I think it is what you prioritize, and
mm,
like knowing that, you know, God says, all who are weary, come to me and I'll give you
yeah,
rest. And yeah, I think it's prioritizing and knowing that. What about you?
yeah, I agree. I think also it's that idea of, in like those busy times, even spending time with God aside, it's so key for our productivity to have like a routine. And I think that really helps. And also then implementing that with your time with God. I know that's something that I found like really helpful,
Yeah.
is actually like I have two daily devotionals that I read, and I mean, in a dream world, I would love to read them in the morning, because I know that would just be a great way to
Mm.
start my day. But I know that's like the first thing I want to do in the morning is not read.
Yeah.
So I like force myself to do it every single night. And there's been like last night, I was so tired that I was so close to not doing it. And I was like, oh, I'll just read double day tomorrow. But then I like just forced myself to do it. And actually I felt so much better for it.
Yeah.
And then just spending that time. And then as well, like I felt like, oh, I've had this whole Sunday completely rested and it's been a really restful day. But actually, like, there was something still, like, my mind wasn't completely rested. But I found actually, like,
Mm.
spending that time reading forced me into this place of, I didn't even know that I needed to spend this time with God, but actually, right now, I really do.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think then it also helps in those like, unexpected times. And I think the Bible calls us so much to find rest in Him, but also it's finding rest with Him. And I think
Yeah.
that's something that's really key, of like, actually, when we feel busy and when we feel stressed, not just keeping that all on ourselves, and just like we can put
Mm.
that on Him, like He's lets us put that on Him. And that's like the best like stress ball we can ever get, is like putting that on
Yeah.
Him. And I think that automatically like relieves you of some of that, because He can't write an essay for you, but He can like really
No.
put you at peace. And I think sometimes we like forget about that, I think, because
Mm.
it can feel so distant. Like, why am I gonna like put my stress on God because He can't write this essay that I have? But actually, I know for me that I found it really helpful, just like, I don't know, being really open with Him and like having these conversations with God of like, this is so stressful, and actually like really putting my mind at ease and seeing the bigger picture. And I think that is something that when you're stressed, you can't necessarily see the big picture of what's happening. So I think it really helps, with that.
Yeah.
And obviously as well, the Bible calls us a lot to have a Sabbath. And I
Mm.
know we mentioned it a little last week, I think it was. But a Sabbath is something that I think, I don't know about you, but my granddad is so like on it with a Sabbath and like loves the Sabbath. But I think it's something that's kind of like slipped. And I no way have a perfect Sabbath in any way, but it's definitely something that I want to get better at. Um,
Yeah.
so how do you think we can like create a Sabbath, and like
Mm.
what are maybe things that you've heard, seen, do for a good like
Yeah.
Sabbath or something?
Well, Sabbath was something that I wasn't very aware of until I came to uni and people were doing it
Mm,
here. I think, you know, like I guess when you do start uni, everything is quite crazy, so the
Yeah.
importance of taking a Sabbath, everyone kind of really recommended it to me.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've been doing it really until recently, and I don't think I necessarily place the significance on it, but like for me it's like I just don't do any work.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like a reset for the week. I think it's interesting. I was reading, I recommend it, this Garden City, John Mark Comer. If you are age 18 to 25, read it, because I think it's a must. But it's all about the balance of work and rest. And it was said that the Hebrew word Shabbat, which is where we get the word Sabbath, could mean to stop or to cease, but it also means to celebrate. And I think, you know, even if you don't think you need that rest to like stop or to seize, I think you can use it to celebrate like the achievements that you've made over the past week, or just to celebrate the fact that like, and no, like you and God, celebrate you and God for the day. And yeah, I think it's just where like, you know, like we spend so much time striving, and I think God gave me a massive like picture about this the other night, about like I've got so many projects that I'm like striving on, and I felt like God just like be my daughter for a moment. And I think in your Sabbath, like life takes over sometimes during the week, but it's like constantly bringing yourself back to God and being like, I'm your daughter, let's spend time together. So I can't remember what the question was, but I hope it answered that.
No, that was great. That was great. I think as well with the Sabbath, like it's a time where it's like, I don't know, it's often seen as if like it's a great time to rest, which it is, and it's like this great time for us to have relief, but it's not just like physical relief of like, I'm so tired, I've had such a stressful week, but actually like also this like spiritual relief. And just as you said, like even if you haven't been busy, they're the times that you sometimes can actually like let it slip, because you're like, it's fine, like I can just keep plowing on. But that time is like a great time to just like spend with God. And I think also like with a Sabbath is this way of just like him almost like calling us back to him, and like just to spend time with him. And I think sometimes we can like spend every single day thinking like this checklist of like, oh yeah, I've prayed today, I've read my Bible today, I've done this today, or like even if I don't know what you do in life is some sort of like mission for God or for the church or whatever, we can feel as if like we're doing his work every single day and we're like spending this time with him every single day, but actually like there's something so special about spending like this really like intentional time with him. It's like the same in like a relationship. Like if you spend every single day, maybe you like text the person that you're like dating, you have a phone call, and you think, oh yeah, we've like spent this time together, cool, like yeah, this is great. But actually like if that goes on for weeks and you haven't like properly seen that person, you'll like slowly feel disconnected. And I think it's then, but then if you had those days where you've like texted loads and you feel like I've seen them, but then when you actually do see them properly in person, you instantly feel like straight away connected. And it's the same thing with God. It's like this connection. And I think also we should be spending every single day trying to follow the plan that he has for our lives as best as that we, in the best way that we can. And I don't know about you, but sometimes I think like, oh yeah, I'm following his plan, great, go me, like yay, I'm finally getting it. But actually like I'll then spend time with him and be like, oh actually maybe I'm not doing this quite right, or maybe like change it a little. And we can get so fixed on God's plan that we can almost miss him a bit out of it, and just kind of go to him of like, okay God, what can I do next, rather than like actually trying to go for him for this bit of relief and rest. And I think that's really important in not just like secular work, but also in like our faith and our spiritual growth, and all of that.
Definitely and like going back to what you said, I think like it's important to remember that like not everyone's Sabbaths will look the same. Like what I find restful, I don't like Abby might not find restful, and the other way around. Like for me, resting is not sitting with a book. I couldn't find anything less stressful for me. Like that is not resting. Whereas for me, like I'm such an extrovert that like I get my energy from being around people. So for me, rest and Sabbathing and spending time with all my friends and family. Other people might find that incredibly stressful and want to sit in their room with a book. So it's like knowing you and knowing like, you know, how how do you and God team up well?
Yeah.
And for me that's people, but for other people it might not be the same, and it's just finding out what is Sabbathing for you.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's something as well. I used to always think, because my granddad is always literally like, will say Sabbath in any possible conversation he can, and he's like on it with his Sabbath day. And for me, I always thought that was a Sunday. Like that for me was like, oh, the Sabbath, it's a Sunday. And I think in my like family and growing up, that's just like always what I knew. But actually sometimes I found later on in life that it doesn't necessarily have to just be a Sunday. I think as well, because we're in a generation where like our like volunteering in church and stuff has really grown, which is so amazing, that sometimes like actually when we like volunteer on a Sunday, when we help with something on a Sunday at church or whatever it may be, we can actually find that not quite the restful thing that we may be doing. So actually it's really important to still take that rest for yourself. And so I found for me like actually my Sabbath day tends to be a bit more like a Saturday, because it's that time where like I see people, but I'm also like chill Saturday and all of that. So I think just a Sabbath in general is like really important, and obviously the Bible calls us to, like, it literally says over and over again how important a Sabbath is. And I think it's like that time where it's almost like a realization of like, actually, like I'm myself, I'm limited, I have this like I can't do everything, I don't have the energy to do everything, but God, you are limitless, so I'm going to come back to you and like gain my energy from you. And just as you said, it's like a preparation, and I think it's such an amazing thing to like go to him before what you then next have to face, rather than going to him afterwards being like, oh my gosh, why have you done this, why have you not done this, but actually like going to him and being like thankful for what's coming ahead. So
that's so good. And I guess it kind of links in with the celebration of like humbling yourself, but being like, oh my goodness, like my God is limitless, and let's celebrate that, and I guess draw from that. So no, that's cool.
100%. Well then, hope you enjoyed. Next week we're going to be talking about boundaries in relationships, which is going to be an interesting one for sure. So do you want to plug our Instagram?
Of course. If you enjoyed today, please go check us out on Instagram at thrive.in.grace. There is some more content on there that I'm sure you'll enjoy.
Yes.
I hope you'll enjoy.
Yes, we hope you enjoy. And come back next week for another great episode.
Hope you've enjoyed.
Have a good week.